Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Dan Kasper Show's on the air, radio dials, on air, on the app, Google and Alexa home devices, YouTube, Twitter, all across the board. Appreciate you making us a part on this part of your day on this Making the Turn Wednesday. Hopefully, you're all off to a fantastic start here. Oh man, we got lots to catch up on here this morning. Lots to catch up on. We're gonna talk some Brewers. We heard from David Stearns yesterday, kind of his season-ending recap. What did he have to say about the Josh Hader trade? What did he have to say about some of the other moves, or I guess maybe lack thereof moves? The future, the 2023 season. Some interesting comments from the main guy in charge when it comes to baseball operations over there for the Brewers. We're gonna hear from that. I want to get your reactions and thoughts on from what you heard or what you're gonna hear from David Stearns. If you did hear some of his stuff, we're gonna play some of the clips coming up here in just a little bit. But I want some instant reaction on this thing because I thought there was some interesting stuff. And the one thing too is I think we have to remember with David Stearns is that he's for the most part since he's been the main guy in charge with the Brewers, he's admitted some mistakes, some moves that he's made that that didn't pan out. Did he do that yesterday? So if you haven't listened, we'll get to that. But also, we're going to hear a little bit from quarterback number 12 in his appearance on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. Not a whole lot there, but we're going to play a clip on what he had to say about the final couple plays. There are little insights perhaps on the final couple plays there. Also, the mindset. He addresses, I guess, the notion or the freaking out or the panicking of Packers fans out there a little bit. So we're going to hear from A-Rod as the Packers are going to be returning to practice today as they get set for their game against the 3-2 New York Jets. So we got football talk. We've got baseball talk coming up. Speaking of baseball, we had the playoffs, the divisional round started yesterday. Philly getting game 1 over Atlanta. Houston getting game 1 over Seattle. The Yankees taking down the Guardians, and the Dodgers taking down the Padres. So a little bit of Philly upset for kind of going based off the rankings and the seedings and that. But Philly, the only one of the lower seeds to get the victory. Looked like Seattle was going to get it done yesterday too, right? Man, jumped out to 4-0 lead through the first couple of innings, but 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth for Houston, and they were able to get that victory against Seattle. So, games will continue today. Got a couple of them. Philly versus the Braves at 3:35, and then tonight we've got the Padres and the Dodgers for game 2. NHL season also started last night. Couple games there for the NHL season. The Rangers getting a 3-1 victory over Tampa. Golden Knights getting a 4-3 victory over the Kings. More games on tap for tonight. So if you haven't made your NHL picks and you want to make some NHL season predictions, you can do so. Hit us up with that quick text on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. We'll make some predictions coming up a little bit later on in the program here. So we'll hit that up. Stock reports are going to be due today. Whose stock is rising, whose stock is falling. You play along with us. We'll do a little Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Good Vibes story. Also, it's another showdown coming up, let's say, probably in the 8 o'clock hour. We'll probably do that in the 8 o'clock hour, a little showdown between a couple of years like we've been doing the last few weeks here. So we'll select those years in the next hour, and then we'll hit it up in the 8 o'clock hour. So, like I said, we got lots to get to, got lots to kind of catch up on, and all that sort of stuff. So let's just jump into it right away. I know we usually take a break and then we get into the opening drive, but I want to get into the opening drive right now because we're gonna kick it off talking a little Brewers baseball because I'm going to play some clips. This is how we're going to do it. I'm going to play some of the audio clips that, in case you didn't hear from David Stearns, president of baseball operations for the Brewers yesterday. And then I'm going to pose a couple of questions to you all. Okay. So I'm going to play some of the audio, going to throw a couple questions at you. Then we'll take that opening drive clip or opening drive break there. So, David Stearns yesterday on expectations and kind of recapping the 2022 Milwaukee Brewers season. Audio courtesy from Brewers.com. So there you got David Stearns acknowledging that the Josh Hader trade did have more of an impact on what he had thought it was going to do for his ball club. So, again, that's we've heard David Stearns as throughout his tenure as the main man in charge with the Brewers, you know, at times admit when a move hasn't made. Jonathan Scope, remember a couple years ago, he admitted that move. Kind of sounds like here he's like, yeah, it had a bigger effect than what I thought it was going to have, and kind of acknowledging that there. What about Christian Yelich though, David Stearns? What do you foresee about Christian Yelich? Okay, so, he's still hopeful that Christian Yelich is going to be, an impact player, big time player for this Brewers ball club. Now, what about the goal heading into, next year? Is that window still open? Does David Stearns still believe that the window is still open to go win a World Series? And what about free agency? What do you got to say about that, David? All right. So just a few comments there. Also a little bit later on. Actually, let's play this one last clip here. Then I'll pose some questions to you because I want to get your feedback from what you're listening from Brewers president of baseball operations, David Stern. So here's what he had to say about the goal for the Brewers to win a World Series. He also said a little bit earlier on that our ownership group is highly motivated to keep this group together, when he was asked about the possibility of adding talent in the offseason. So, there's a few comments from David Stearns. So, the question or questions that, I wanna pose to you and that we're gonna hit up here on our opening drive. 1, do you have faith? Do you have trust in this Brewers front office, in this, Brewers ownership group, that they will have the resources or open, I guess, the resources, AKA pocketbook, and try to go for it, put out a competitive team on the field next year to try to get back into the postseason and compete for World Series. Do you have that faith? Do you have that trust in the Brewers front office with the Brewers ownership group? The line too where he acknowledged that the ownership group is highly motivated to keep this group together, highly motivated to go out there and win a World Series. Do you do you believe that? Do you trust them? I guess is probably the better way to put it out there. Do you trust that David Stearns is like, yeah, you know what, this ownership group wants us to go out there and get that World Series. We're going to do the best we can. We believe that that competitive window is still open. Are you buying all that? That's what I want to hear from you about. So start hitting us up with some text, okay? 715-830-1912. Put it up on our Twitter page there too. So opening drive, we're gonna kick things off talking a little Brewers, reacting to some of the comments from Brewers president of baseball operations, David Stearns. Do you trust this Brewers front office? Do you trust this Brewers ownership group? when it comes to trying to get a World Series. Tomorrow we'll be doing another episode or a podcast episode, Man Cave podcast episode. Do a bourbon tasting one with our good friends over from Hy-Vee, Mark and Phil. We're gonna be at the Elks Lodge tomorrow night around 6 p.m. So anybody wants to stop by and say hi and such, you can do so over there. But we'll have that new episode of the Man Cave podcast probably up on Friday. But we have episodes up daily that include instant replay segments from the radio show and new and original content and all that good stuff too. But big shout out to our sponsors of the Man Cave podcast, that is Hy-Vee and now Toyson Ford. So big thanks to those two amazing partners. Don't forget to always to subscribe to the Man Cave podcast for free on whatever podcasting platform that's easier for you or that you want to use, or you can hit us up on the website too, sportstalk1051.com. It's free. And don't forget, if you're like listening on iTunes and Spotify, leave us a solid review and like 5-star rating. That way other people can find it. And tell you what, I'm going to throw this out there. If you send me a screenshot of you like giving us a 5-star rating, like on Spotify or iTunes, or a positive review, I'm going to put you in a drawing for a hat. Okay. So bust out your phones, look up the Man Cave podcast on your app, whatever app that you listen to your podcasts on, write a review or give a 5-star rating and screenshot that baby and text it or tweet it at me, and I'll put you in a drawing for a hat. So, all right, let's get things rolling here this morning on the opening drive. Okay, so you heard a little bit from David Stearns, Brewers president of baseball operations. The question that I am throwing out to all of you Brewers fans right now, after hearing from him, do you have confidence in this front office and this ownership that they will build a team to compete for a World Series? Yes or no? That simple. Got it up on Twitter if you want to vote on there. If you don't have Twitter, you can always hit us up with a quick text at 715-830-1912. 715-830-1912, or on Facebook.com/Kasper Sports too. Again, kind of like what we said, David Stearns, at least you got to give the guy credit. I mean, because a lot of general managers or coaches or whatever have you may not be so willing to admit some mistakes, and that's one thing I will give David Stearns throughout his tenure for the Brewers. I'll give him a lot. I don't want to say he's a bad GM or anything like that, but I will. I appreciate it as a fan, I guess, to hear from a general manager once in a while, like, yeah, you know what, that move didn't work out, or yeah, that move did not play out the way I thought it was going to play out. A lot of us, we're going to be talking about that Josh Hader trade probably for a while yet, especially since the Brewers didn't make the postseason when they were in a postseason position before the trade. It's going to be talked about. It's going to be analyzed probably yet still this offseason and in the winter. But, I do give him a little bit of a tip of the cap that he has throughout the years admitted, like, yeah, that didn't really work out, or that didn't play out the way I thought it was going to play out in my head. Even though a lot of us, not the majority, but a lot of us probably questioned the move at that time. But do you have faith? And I guess if I narrowed it down, I guess, if you don't have trust in this, if you're voting for no, and I'll tell you right now on Twitter, everybody's voting no, that they don't. So if I had to narrow it down, is it because you don't have the faith or the confidence in the ownership to spend some money? Or is it you don't have the faith or the confidence in the front office to make the proper moves or to make the right moves to get this team to a World Series? If that's the goal at hand, is a World Series championship, which that's what Stearns said yesterday. That's still the goal, is a World Series. So that's what we're going to hold them to, is a World Series championship, right? So do you have the least amount of faith in the ownership that they won't spend that money? Or is it the decisions from the front office. If I'm asking you to kind of narrow it down here a little bit. I mean, it's a wide majority that nobody right now has faith in the Brewers. And maybe it's a lot of it has to deal with still a bit of a recency effect. Still upset with some of the moves, still let down from this previous season and such. And let's face it, it's tough. It's going to be tough. You know, I know David Stearns has said, and you heard it a little bit there too, where he said that, we're not primarily going to build our teams through free agency. And he has said, and he said it around the Josh Hader trade, that his philosophy isn't one that, we're going to all go in and then, for the next few years, we're going to rebuild. Kind of, if you want to kind of have a comparison, maybe like the Kansas City Royals, right? Couple of years, they go to the World Series back to back, they win one of them, but they're still trying to rebuild and still trying to become relevant. So David Stearns has acknowledged that's not what he wants to do. That's not how he wants to build his teams. He wants to be competitive every single year. So is that the right move, I guess, for a smaller market team? If you're a small market team and your goal is to win a World Series, should that be the game plan? Should that be the philosophy? Like, hey, we're going to remain competitive. We're going to try to go for this thing. And then, you know what? Maybe one of those years we just get a little bit of luck, get a little bit on a hot streak, and that's how we can win it. Or for a small market team where they can't spend a boatload of cash every single year, do they have to have the philosophy or the game plan to go like, all right, we're going to push all of our chips in for the next couple of years. We're going to go for this thing. We're going to take a risk. But that's the only way that a smaller market team can go in and win a World Series, to try to compete with the likes of the Dodgers, the Astros, the Yankees, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think is the proper philosophy or game plan for a team like the Brewers, a smaller market team? Is it to try to remain competitive every single year? Which, if you look at it, the Brewers, even after this year, yes, they were competitive. I mean, 10 games over 500. Made the postseason the first 4 years, and you could say, well, that shortened year, they probably shouldn't have. But is that the way? And then you're kind of just hoping, like, okay, maybe that 1 year that they can get a little luck, get on a little bit of a hot streak, see what happens? Or do you think they need to push some chips in and, like, it might sting for a few years afterwards. It might be a little slow. It might be a little bit rough. But this is the only way we can try to really, really try to compete for a World Series. Let me know. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. A few texts. Hey, we got a couple votes for you guys. How about that? Philly fan Dave, going on the bat line, man. Jeez. I get that you have to be somewhat financially smart, but I'm tired of Stearns constantly trying to find the quote deals and shop at thrift stores for players. Sometimes you just got to go to the name brand stores and pull the trigger. No faith. G-Man, he's got the faith. Yes, I trust the Brewers front office. Living a dream, Jeff. Morning, Dan. I understand why the crew wants to keep their starting pitching staff and at least Williams, but my follow-up question would have been, why would you want to keep a bunch of guys who can't hit for a 250 batting average? Let me see if I can bring up the clip about David Stearns here when he talked about home runs. He kind of talked a little bit about what the offense is like in Major League Baseball right now. Let me see if I can find that in a decent amount of time right now. But he did kind of address a little bit with the off. I mean, he talked about Willie Adames, and obviously we played the clip about Christian Yelich there too. But am I going to be able to? No, I don't know if I'll be able to find it in time. But Whenever I do get it, I'll get it to you after the break. Maybe it was over here. Maybe it wasn't audio. I'll look for it later. But a couple other things from David Stearns yesterday. He was asked about his contract situation with the Brewers and the Mets. He says there's always going to be speculation, and I'm going to pay no attention to the speculation. For anybody wondering about Craig Counsell and his job security, he did say that he was pleased with the performance of Craig Counsell this season. Counsell's contract is up after this upcoming season, but he wouldn't offer any specifics on whether talks are underway to extend. He said talks on the coaching staff are taking place this week. Here was the quote that he had to say. It was a strange offensive year, no question. Homers are a really good thing in baseball, but I also think the game calls for certain things during the game and the season. And at times, we just didn't get it done in those situations. And I'll go back to something I brought up last week. I'll be curious to see, because I think numbers are going to go higher. I think averages are going to go higher. I think runs are going to go higher next year with the banning of the shift. But I'll be curious to know, like, these analytic teams in the offseason, are they going to be able to figure out a way? They got to be able to figure out a way. I'm sure they've got computers and numbers and all that stuff. But are they going to look at this and be like, okay, let's take a look at this guy in 2022. How many balls did he hit in the shift? You take that away, and then you come up with a new number for his batting average and his on base and his, his slugging or whatever. I'll be curious to know if some front offices kind of have that tool in their toolbox, or they kind of have that mindset. It's like, okay, we're going to look at this guy. Now let's kind of, do some deduction here a little bit. Let's do a little bit of math. Let's take a look at how many balls did he hit in this shift? How many of those would have been base hits now with the banning of the shift? And what would his numbers have looked like last year? I'll be curious to know if some teams like the Brewers, because I could see a team like the Brewers kind of having that mindset, kind of breaking it down that way. Yeah, he hit 220, but you know what? If we didn't have the shift last year, he would have batted a 265 or something like that. So what do you think? So far, majority 80%. 80% saying no, you do not have trust in David Stearns. Now, I should have had a follow-up on there. Is it the ownership or is it the front office? It's a tough one for me because, I think Mark Ananasio wants to win. I think he wants to win a World Series. But at the same time, you have to wonder, does he have enough funds? Is he willing to spend as much? And maybe not willing to spend, but literally, does he have enough to compete with some of these other bigger market teams out there? I think he does have the approach of, like, he's very hands-off on player decisions, which, maybe at times frustrates a lot of fans, especially with maybe the Josh Hader trade. But he's very hands-off on players' decisions. He puts all that on Stearns in the front office, kind of like what Bob Harlan did with Ron Wolf. Nope. All player decisions going through Ron Wolf. All football decisions going through Ron Wolf. And, there was a lot of people upset when he traded a first-round pick for some dude named Brett Favre. Like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm not trying to compare Ron Wolf to David Stearns. I'm not trying to do that. But I guess then, too, it's like, well, how much do you want your owner involved in player decisions? Now, I think if Mark Ananasio goes to David Stearns, he's like, hey, you know what? Let's spend a little bit more. Let's increase our payroll this year. Let's push our chips in. I know you say you want to be competitive, but you know what? I want to go for this thing for the next year or two. Maybe that's the frustration part for some fans on the ownership group of Mark Anasio. And maybe Mark has said that, and it's just that David Stern's like, no, I don't think we should do that. I don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But you know what? I still feel like this year or this upcoming season, I'd be good if they tried to kind of go for it. I think, they've got some backing with some of their young talent. They've got a little bit of depth there, especially in the minor leagues with their outfielders that, you know what, if this year they decide to spend a little bit more and bring in some free agents, they've got a little bit of a cushion with some young talent. It's not like their top prospects are all single A. They've got some guys like in a couple years could be full-time starters. So I feel like they've got a little bit of a cushion. You'd like to see a little bit more depth with the starting pitching, but they've got Freddie Peralta and Aaron Ashby, and you hope Ashby will take you hope Ashby would take that next step, and you hope Freddie Peralta can stay healthy, but me personally as a fan, yeah, I'd like to see it kind of push your chips in and go for it here a little bit. But it has been nice to talk about a Brewers team that has been competitive for the last few years, though, too. But if I had to pick between the two, I'd like to go for it a little bit more. Kind of like what Philly fan Dave said, and maybe shop at the name brand store here a little bit. And it's not guaranteed to work, but at least maybe you kind of know a little bit more what you're getting if you spend a little bit more. Most of the time. Sometimes, well, we know those. We've got examples of high-priced players who usually don't pan out. All right. You can keep your thoughts coming on Twitter and Facebook and such. We got to take a quick break. We're going to play a little bit from Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, talking about expectations. Changing of the seasons is looking pretty darn good right now in the Chippewa Valley. All those leaves that are red, orange, and yellow. You've outdone yourself again, Wisconsin. But maybe these changes of the season is inspiring you to also do some changing around your home. Thinking about changing up the furniture or layout in your home, but not sure where to start? Well, here's a two-step process to help you out. One, shop at the Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Restore to find some new treasures to add to your home. Two, donate what you currently have and are replacing to the Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Restore. That's simple. When you shop at the Restore, you never know what kind of treasures or items you may find there. And to top it all off, your purchase and donations go to help fund home builds for families in the need in the Chippewa Valley. Win win. So if you're inspired to do a little changing, change it up with the Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Restore. Actually, got a few texts. I don't know if it's all the same person, but few of you saying this is why baseball is so awful and their ratings are down because of this disparity between big market teams and small market teams. Hard to watch. So, kind of actually got a few of you kind of saying that's why you can't stand watching baseball at times. So, we'll get back to some of the votes and keep you updated on that poll and such. But I want to play a couple of clips from Aaron yesterday on the Pat McAfee show. One interesting thing about that was regarding the last couple of plays down at the goal line there. And we've all kind of wondered, like, okay, was it a play called by LaFleur? Did Aaron check out of it? You know, what was the situation going on? Well, Pat asked him, and a little bit of an insight to what was going on through that play call decision. So, right at the end there, he said that LaFleur ended up calling the play that Rodgers wanted. So I'm, kind of curious to see if people are like, oh, Matt LaFleur, you got to stick to your guns. You got to stick to the play that you want to call. That's why you are the play caller. I haven't seen a whole lot of that, but maybe now some of you will kind of have those thoughts. But that was kind of the decision there. It was two play calls. Sounds like Aaron's, they called or LaFleur called the one that Aaron wanted. So it wasn't really necessarily a check out of a play. At least that's what it sounds like. But I don't know. I'm kind of waiting to see if there's going to be some reaction like LaFleur. You got to stick to your call. You're the play caller. You got to call the plays. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Expectations. After every loss, Packers fans, we kind of tend to get frustrated, especially after a game against like the Giants and such. Tend to get a little frustrated, tend to get a little heated, tend to get a little upset. Well, here's what Aaron had to say about the high expectations that Packers fans have. There you go. So that's just a little bit more from Aaron talking about the expectations and the standards of being very, very high, which I don't think a lot of us would disagree too much on that. So go out there and win this weekend against the Jets, right? Have a little bit of a bounce back there and get back to your winning ways. But that standard's been there for, I would say, the majority of my life. I mean, it's been probably since the mid '90s. Would you say that standard has kind of gotten back? I mean, I know I wasn't around in the '70s and such, but I would argue that that standard has kind of been there since the mid '90s with that turnaround with Holmgren and Wolf and Whites and Favre and et cetera, et cetera. And it's been there for a little bit. You'd like that standard to be there for a long, long time and continue to be there, but you know, got to get a bounce back victory against this Jets. We'll focus more on that game coming up later on this week. So, quick updates on the poll as we've gotten more votes coming on in right now. A little bit closer now. It's getting a little bit closer. 35.7% of you on Twitter Nation out there saying, yes, you do have confidence in the front office and ownership that they will build a team to compete for the World Series. 64.3% of you saying, no, nada. So, again, you can vote on Twitter at DANKASPER. We retweeted it on the Sports Talk one there, too, if you'd rather do that. Coming up next hour, we'll announce the 2 years that we'll do a little showdown with in the 8 o'clock hour. Also, we'll do some stock reports next hour. You can play along whose stock is up and whose stock is down. If you want to make some NHL season predictions, if we got any hockey fans out there, last day to do so. You can make your predictions by hitting us up with a text, tweet, or Facebook message. We'll make our predictions coming up a little bit. Maybe we'll do that in the next hour, too. Maybe we'll hit that up, too. But if you got any picks that you want to send on over, you can do so. Okay? Kraken are winning it all this year, so I don't know why we would have to even talk about it. My Seattle Kraken are going to win it all this year. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, Kasper?
Going. How are
Is
you?
it?
Yeah.
Good. You ready for a little Wednesday wildcard action?
Blue highlighter? Okay.
Yeah, I have a highlighter as well.
Okay.
Right here.
Highlighter and Sharpie.
I know. Well, I never know what I'm going to need in here. Sometimes I like to use my Sharpie as a highlighter, so it looks like I have a redacted statement when I leave. See, you can't hear all these things. Which, by the way, I was going to run this by you. Did you hear about this? Arnold Schwarzenegger auctions off some personal training sessions.
Really?
Yeah, it was just recently he auctioned off some old clothes and art, even a ride in his tank with all the proceeds going to an after school stars charity thing. So there was some good places for the money to go, but he did also auction off a training session. You think you'd like to hit the gym and the weights with pumping iron?
I'd die.
Arnold.
I think Philly fan Dave probably would.
Oh, is he a gym rat?
Well, he needs some leg days instead of focusing on the upper body all the time.
Ooh, I think is that a little hit on his calf size? I think that's it, Philly fan Dave.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to come up and put that into action.
I'm gonna get a message now. I know I am.
I know what it's like in the weight room. If you're gonna rake on his calves, he's gonna come and kick your butt. That's what's gonna happen. All right, we're gonna just shuffle up these cards here on Wednesdays. We like to do that with a little bit of a random deck here. Throw these questions to Kasper before Philly fan Dave comes up and puts that leg day to good work here with some butt kicking. All right. What have you lost since childhood that you would like to regain?
My Ninja Turtle collection.
Again, with the Ninja Turtles.
Yep, my Ninja Turtle collection. Not even close.
What?
Or, no, that and my mini football helmet collection.
What happened to the mini footballs? We've all heard about the turtles.
I have no idea.
Snore. What? You just
lost it.
Up and lost it?
Yeah.
How many did you have? Talk us through the mini football helmet.
That was during the day when it was the quarter machine, so you couldn't go to the store and just buy them all at once.
Oh, you had to earn them.
You had to earn them.
Kind of like Happy Meal toys back in the day.
Yeah. And I had them all. So, you had to put the stickers on. You had to put the face mask on.
You had the full on, all of them, every single one?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would like that back, too.
That explains a lot. Mm-hmm. All right, back into the Wednesday wildcard deck. Let's see. Who's the most toxic player, in your opinion? Let's go football.
Like currently?
Yeah, currently.
I know some people would say Aaron.
Yeah, a little bit of accountability, Anybody?
I mean, I would say Antonio Brown. I guess he's technically still active. So,
Yeah. You would think that would be the most.
AB.
How about of all time? Do you have a standout, most toxic player in the league that you can pinpoint from all time? Even if it's just, personally, you just didn't like the guy. It doesn't necessarily have to be in terms of like team fines or fouls or anything like that.
Most toxic player of
In
all
your
time,
opinion.
Of all time.
Just like bad energy for the team, kind of to
it
the
still
point
might be Antonio Brown.
where the
I mean,
toxicity
T.O. would be
overrides
on there
any.
too.
But at that
Terrell
point, it's a
Owens.
shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you have that much talent and you're so toxic that supersedes any of your gameplay,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate.
Those would probably be the top two, I would say.
T.O. and Antonio Brown. Hard to argue with those picks. Yeah,
So.
I would say so too.
All right, Marks.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Let me know if you're going to need some bandages and gauze later after Philly date comes up here. That's what you get for smack talking.
Second hour kicking off on this Making a Turn Wednesday. Appreciate you all tuning in. However, you're tuning in wherever you may be tuning in on this a little wet start, depending on where you're listening to us from. Don't forget, you can check us out either on the radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also online, sportstalk1051.com. You can get the video stream link there or get it on Twitter, also the app, and your Google and Alexa home devices. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll announce the 2 years that we will be doing battle with for another edition of Showdown. We've got a Chippewa Valley Habitat Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Good Vibes Wednesday story to get to you. Also, we'll do some stock reports, whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling. Quick updates on the poll about whether, after hearing David Stearns in his press conference yesterday, do you have the confidence in this front office and the ownership group of the Brewers that they will build a team to compete for the World Series? Right now, 64.3% of you saying, no, you don't. Nothing. So let's do some sports nuggets of the day here this morning. We got 1986, couple of our running back nuggets here. 1986, Walter Payton became the first NFL player to accumulate 20,000 yards. And then in 1997, Barry Sanders passed Jim Brown and moved into fourth place on the NFL's all-time rushing list with 12,513 yards. Also, same day, same year, same sport, Eddie Murray with the Minnesota Vikings set an NFL record when he kicked his 235th consecutive extra point. Yes, there was a time and a place when a kicker for the Vikings actually made kicks. Just saying. So, we've got Texas Rangers 2010 won the first playoff series in franchise history when they defeated the Tampa Devil Rays in 2010. So those are just some of your sports nuggets for the day. You remember the Eddie Murray era? I think he ended up missing an extra point later that year because he was 23 or 24.
Yeah,
that season.
And I mean, my big memory of Eddie,
not the baseball player,
right,
we're talking the kicker,
the football Eddie Murray. Yeah. My big memory of him was as a Detroit Lions kicker, if memory serves me right. Reminding it, because the thing is, you look up Eddie Murray, and the first thing you see is a whole bunch of Orioles photographs. But yeah, he was a Lions kicker throughout the 80s. And that's when I started paying attention to football. I mean, he bounced around a lot after that. But yeah, I remember in 97 when he was kicking with the Vikings, it was like, oh, wow, competent kicker. This is pretty cool. But yeah, he was mainly, he is a Detroit Lion ultimately, 1980 to 91.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a first team All-Pro once, three-time second team All-Pro, two-time Pro Bowler, all with the Lions.
Yeah.
Second team All-Decade team. I mean, yeah, he was good. And then won a Super Bowl with, was it with Washington? I think it was. Washington? No, Dallas.
Dallas, yeah, he came out of retirement to play for Dallas.
Still played even longer than that. But yeah, Eddie Murray was a solid kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
All right, you ready to do some years here?
What do we got?
So I'm actually got the generator. I have to redo it because we're actually getting some duplicates. See, I kept the years this time.
Good.
Look at that.
Keeping track.
Yeah, you proud of me right now?
I am.
All right. Okay, so we got it. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
We're going back to the 80s and the 90s. 1982.
Okay.
1991.
All right.
So those are your 2 years. 1982, 1991 for a little showdown. Now,
oh, boy.
That's a little bit more in your wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Because what year were you born?
78.
Okay, so you're
so
4.
Both. Yeah, I mean, musically, especially for both.
Yep.
Movies, I'd say for both. Sports, still too young to know what was going on in 82. But
82 Brewers.
That's the thing. That's the big one. Now, is that going to be enough? I don't know, but that's a pretty significant thing. So, okay. I'm already thinking through what happened in both years.
We've already gotten 4 years in the 90s. I'm going to run out of stuff.
I know. You're going to be balancing like 1964 with 2010 pretty soon.
Yeah, because we're doing 1965 to 2010, is it?
63 to 2010.
Yeah, that's what it was. 63.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
They're going to run out pretty soon.
I know. Dang it.
All right, so there we go.
You should
82.
do some. I should miss some Wednesdays so you can do some showdowns in some years I don't know anything about. So,
1974 and 1967.
yeah. Well, I could do a Packer one in 67.
Well, that's
I wouldn't
true.
know that one.
68.
Yeah.
That's
So,
a
all
nice
right.
year.
So those are the 2 years. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on. You want to? So I asked for it yesterday. We didn't get a whole lot of responses, but since you're in here today, we're gonna do some NHL picks.
Okay.
Your prediction for the Wild: do they make the postseason? And 2, Stanley Cup winners prediction this year. A lot of love for the Rangers. It sounds like. This year.
Yes, Igor Shesterkin is a big reason why he's probably the best goalie in the game right now. And it's not just a one-trick pony with that team, though. He was a big reason why they did as surprisingly well as they did last year. For the Wild, I think there might be a little regression, but I don't think they fall out of the playoffs. If you have Kirill Kaprizov on your team, you're going to be good to some degree or another. You probably get in with like 96 points. They're probably going to be. They're not going to be second. I think they're probably. I almost want to say they'll be the first wild card. I'll say that.
Okay.
Maybe they finish third and get that 2-3 matchup, but I think they're going to be the first wild card. Now for the Stanley Cup, I mean Colorado's coming back, loaded.
Mm-hmm.
They're an easy pick to win it all. I think it will be. You know what? Back to back again. We're gonna have another one. Colorado Avalanche are gonna win the Stanley Cup. I'm not sure who they're gonna beat. It's gonna be some team out of the East that we're not necessarily predicting.
So a lot of love for Calgary coming out of the West, though, too.
Yes, Calgary, Edmonton. I think especially once the Oilers made a bit of a playoff breakthrough, they actually won a series last year. I mean, having Connor McDavid on your team helps a ton, and he's going to have another great year. Again, kind of hoping for an Oilers-Flames playoff series. That whole Battle of Alberta thing that we heard about a bit in the spring, that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a major rivalry up there. So for competitive hockey's sake, I hope somehow everything works out that we get another Edmonton-Calgary playoff series, and I hope we have another Avalanche Oilers series to have another Nate McKinnon, Connor McDavid back to that would be sublime hockey. But Colorado is good enough and competitive enough. Cale Makar on defense. They'll win the West. I think they win the Stanley Cup. But like I said, from the East,
is it fair to say it's a little bit more open with a few teams?
It is. And Tampa
Bay, Carolina
will be good. Tampa Bay's competitive. The Rangers will be good.
Florida.
Toronto should be, Toronto should be good. And now, again, Toronto keeps running into first round like this past year was Tampa Bay. I wonder if Toronto finally does what the Oilers did last year and they finally go on a bit of a run. I don't know that that's enough to get them to the Stanley Cup final. Maybe they run out of steam in like the in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm kind of doing a push on this. I'm gonna say the Eastern Conference champion is going to be a team that's not really being predicted right now.
Okay.
It's going to, I mean, we're not talking a team that comes out of complete nowhere that's just like trying to think of a team that's just downtrodden right now in the East. Like what I think it's Columbus in the East right now because they bounce back and forth conferences. I'm not talking about a team that's way down and is suddenly going to go on a run, but one of those borderline East playoff teams like a Flyers or a Devils or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Flyers or Senators.
Yeah, one of those kind of teams goes on a bit of a run. Not the Penguins, not the Caps. Some other team will get into the Stanley Cup final. It'll be like when the Canadiens got there a couple years ago. You're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
How did they get there? And then they had a horrific season last year. I think that's what it could be. But it'll be the Colorado Avalanche and the Avs win a back-to-back.
So for my Eastern division, I'm going to go with Carolina Hurricanes to go there. And, the West, I mean, watch out, baby. From last to first, the Seattle Kraken. Last in their division to,
yes.
because, I know the Coyotes were worse, but still. Kraken, baby. They're going to make the jump.
Hey, the Coyotes are playing in a 5,000-seat arena this year.
Seattle versus Carolina. It's going to happen. Okay, if I'm being real, I'd probably go Calgary, but, I'm rooting for my Kraken, even though that they got a stupid troll as a mascot now. But let's go Kraken.
So,
G-Man, your daughter needs to get me a Seattle Kraken hat. I'm just saying.
You are such a big Seattle Kraken fan. Name your Seattle Kraken player who is gotten the most votes from ESPN of their numerous NHL people, and I mean that there are a lot, numerous NHL people as Rookie of the Year. That would be the Calder Trophy. Which member of the Kraken is that?
The Seattle Kraken you're talking about?
As in the Seattle Kraken.
You're talking...
Not the Albuquerque Kraken, not the Madison Kraken, the Seattle Kraken. Which member of the Kraken is the consensus pick to be the Calder Trophy champion, the Rookie of the Year?
Is it... So it's between either Beniers or Wright?
Beniers.
Okay.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah, look at me, huh?
I like... Okay. Impressive.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Matty Beniers is kind of the general consensus pick of and again, how many, gosh, ESPN has a bunch of people making picks, but it was like 13, Owen Power, gosh, who's he playing for again? Blah, blah, blah. No, Buffalo, that's right. 7, and else after that is like mostly one vote after that. But Matty Beniers, you're going to be getting yourself a Matty Beniers jersey?
I should get a hockey sweater. I should get one.
It's number 10.
That
makes a difference.
By the way, Lucas, noted hockey fan, me, sweater, not jersey.
Also good. We're making progress in the second season of Kraken hockey.
Mm-hmm. Look at me, huh?
Wow. Going to be talking about putting the biscuit in the basket and also you were talking with a Canadian
top
accent
shelf and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
This is
hat tricks. Booyah.
This is okay. But yeah, this is pretty good. But yeah, I mean, who knows how he develops? We've seen highly touted rookies not do that well, but you wouldn't be going wrong with someone like that, and especially to get the Kraken to have. And I mean this in a general sense. It's good to see a very young team. It's not performing that well, which is usually what happens. The Golden Knights skewed all of that. That's not normal. Get a player that's going to get some national attention. It's not the cast-offs from everyone else. And that's going to be good. If Beniers has the season that is being predicted, that's good for Seattle, just from a PR standpoint and from the team getting better. I mean, I don't think they're going to be close to a playoff spot, but I don't think they're going to be as bad as a typical expansion team was in a season 1 like last year.
Matty's a very highly intelligent young kid, too, because if you remember, he originally was supposed to go to Harvard.
Yeah.
Then COVID, and then he went to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I know my dudes.
You do. All right, get yourself a Matty Beniers jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Got a whole
sweater.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah. Man. Who's the hockey expert now?
Yeah, that's true.
Man. Lucas.
I need to work on my
your hockey vocabulary.
My goal scoring. Yeah. I'm hoping to talk to Anthony LaPlanta from the Wild this week.
Nice.
Hopefully going to. I'm not sure if I'd get it together, but we may have that when you're out on Friday. We might have that to play back. So we'll see. Because the Wild season starts tomorrow, I do believe, is their first regular season game. Because we had the first games last night.
Right. Yep.
With the Golden Knights and the Kings. But
Rangers getting the victory too.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the Golden Knights going to gold jerseys now?
You know what? They remind me of the Dada Supreme basketball shoes I had in college. Black and gold chrome. Oh yeah, I still got them. If you want me to bring them in one day,
you should.
I should. Yeah, the Chris Webber Dada Supremes back in the day.
Need some cleats in the studio.
They're not cleats; they're basketball shoes.
Well, that's right. I mean, we need some footwear.
Yeah. I still have my. It might be his first version, the D Wade Converse.
Wow.
Those were white, black, and gold.
Yes, we should get some. I mean, I know the whole shoe thing. Maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe I'm one of the last generations that wasn't like blown away by shoes, whereas nowadays that's like such a thing. But that is a thing nowadays.
I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of them. But yes, I will bring them. I can. Yeah,
Okay.
that was during the East Bay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just buddy of mine, Frank, actually had the Dadas with the spin wheel on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, like literally you could spin the wheel.
When you started putting extra things on the shoes.
Mhm.
Oh, that was great.
Yep.
Gosh, I still remember the pump up shoes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Man, these okay. I've got to find them, but yeah. I still have the D Wades, and I still have those Dadas somewhere in a closet. So they're just sitting collecting dust. So I won't get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was a big D Wade fan.
Yeah,
so.
let's put this up. That's
might
good.
have been the only pair of Converses I ever owned too. Never was a Chucky guy.
I think my parents got me some Converse when I was really young, and I was like, no, I don't want to wear those. And then I got to, and actually, I probably would have worn them if I were a little older, and I just never. And then by that time, they were too small. I'm like, dang it. I might still actually have those because I literally never wore them. So maybe either I gave them away to Goodwill or I still have them buried somewhere.
And I can only find the chrome, like silver chrome Dada, so I'll have to bring those in.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, memories there. They sucked at grip though, but they were nice and light. Made you feel like they were going fast, but they sucked at the grip, and they felt like plastic too, to be honest with you. But they look good.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's.
Remember, my coach was like, "No, you got to wear shoes that match the jerseys." So I had to buy another one.
Now it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Footwear is just like what? Wear anything. It doesn't. Yeah. Used to be your shoes had to match the jersey. That doesn't apply anymore.
I know, and it's like you're telling a college kid he's got to pay for another pair of Nikes or something like that. It's like, dude, come on. Just I was at the altar of the Deion Sanders look good, play good. Well, it didn't play good, but
well, he ain't swag
good.
either. So
yeah, drama there too with him and Eddie Robinson. Holy moly! So, all right, tell you what, let's take a quick break. We'll talk some baseball with the postseason going on. We got that. Get you an update on the Brewers poll too after these quick words. Speaking of the hunting season that's getting, or the deer gun season that's starting next month, don't forget to send us your photos for the Tilden Gun Trophy Board on our website. Even if you're having some luck with bow hunting or doing some late season fishing or anything like that, send us your photos so we can put them up on the Tilden Gun Trophy Board on our website. You can either access it at clicking on the Outdoors tab at sportstalk1051.com, or if you go to the Nation tab at sportstalk1051.com, then you'll be able to check some other stuff that we got available through the Nation, like some Chip with Steel tickets. If you want to sign up to win some of that, you can submit a question for the Man Cave podcast, nominate a sports spotlight, whether it's an athlete, coach, or team, for a Carpet City Flooring Center sports spotlight. All that good stuff going on through the Nation right now. All right, let's talk some baseball. So last night, or yesterday, I should say, too, divisional round series began. The only kind of upset was Philly getting the victory over the Atlanta Braves. The Mariners looked like they were going to do it, but then Houston tacking on some runs there in the ninth, and they were able to escape with victory. Yankees taking down Cleveland. Dodgers taking down the Padres. For the games today, we get Philly and Atlanta, and then Dodgers Padres. Quick updates on the poll at hand. After hearing from David Stearns yesterday, do you have confidence in this front office and ownership that they will build a team to compete for the World Series? 73.7% of you on Twitter saying, no, you don't. So it's gone back up. It was getting maybe a little closer. It was down to about 63% no, but now it's risen back up to 73.7% that Brewers faithful have no confidence whatsoever that David Stearns and Mark Anasio. As a Twins fan, Lucas, how do you view, would you have confidence in Mark Anasio and David Stearns?
I do, only in the sense that
because you don't have a bone to pick. You don't have you don't have a horse in this race.
Right, I don't.
I mean, you're still a Brewers fan, but still,
I like them, but they're not my team. I don't like live and die with them. So, I do, but I think that's also part of there's also part of the limitation of their market, which was just discussed plenty of times. I know that sounds like a crutch, but it's also kind of the reality of baseball too. That, well, at a certain point, you're gonna get beaten out by other teams because that's the economic structure of the game. It's not a fair system.
So let me ask you this. I don't want to interrupt you, but let me ask you this, because it was something I brought up in the first hour, and this is maybe another question. So David Stearns, after the Josh Hader trade, if you remember, he talked about kind of his philosophy of building a team that it's, he doesn't want to build a team and try to go for it for a couple of years, and then, you have to rebuild for a few years after that. Kind of like Kansas City. Mm-hmm. He wants to be able to be competitive every single year. Do you think that's the correct approach for a smaller market team like Milwaukee? Do you think that that's the correct approach? Like, on the surface, it's like, oh yeah, be competitive, maybe make the playoffs every year, but you need a little bit of luck and you need to go on a hot streak to maybe win it. Or do you think it has to be like the Royals, where, yeah, you're going to suffer through some years, but if you go all in, maybe just one of those years in that 2-year span or whatever, you can get a World Series? What do you think is the proper approach for a smaller market team?
I mean, if you're always competitive, that means hopefully everything breaks just the right way. And I think we were talking about this, actually. Was it like last week or the week before? That like last year was a good example of everything kind of was working on. Like, you have one of those years that the pitching is sublime. Problem is the bats shut down at the worst possible time, and well, then you're done. But they were always kind of in position for that to happen. If you go all in, you could have what happened with, like, remember a few years ago, the Padres, and I think another year, the Mariners did one of those all-in years, and then it completely backfired.
It's like the Padres got Matt Kemp, I think, and, they just, like, not even finished the year, and they were selling off already.
Right. Now, that's relatively recent history, and both teams have turned around and are, well, still playing playoff baseball as we speak. So that doesn't, and San Diego and Seattle, well, they're I mean, San Diego is a fairly small market by Major League Baseball standards. Seattle, a little larger. Neither is New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. Boston. I mean, it's kind of 50-50, honestly. Like, if you're always kind of competitive, again, you're always on the verge of potentially having a 2021 style pitching performance like the Brewers had. But if you do a Royals plan to go all in for like 3 years, well, then you've got everything working just right. You don't have to worry about, well, are the bats going to shut down? No, they're not, because you've built up enough talent that they're all going to perform well, and you can get to the World Series. Of course, it also takes good execution, good talent acquisition, all of that. Dayton Moore did a good job of that. I know he just got fired, but he did a good job of putting that together, and it worked. They got a World Series. They got to another World Series besides that. So I think you kind of have to, I don't know. Stearns is as you said, he's a believer in constant competitiveness. I don't know that that's necessarily going to get you to the World Series, and I think that's where the frustration comes from a lot of Brewer fans. They're going, well, you're never going all in. Well, because he doesn't want to go all in. He wants to be in position to not have to do that much. That if you put too much into a certain, like, okay, the Reds were actually a good recent example. Last year was the year the Reds got all these players and it didn't work, and then they quick sold them all off, and now they're terrible. Now there's reason to believe that they've got young players that will develop relatively soon. But do you, as a Brewers fan, not you, Dan, but do you, general Brewers fan, want to go through what maybe the Reds have just gone through? That's probably the alternative. That means you're going to have a couple seasons where you don't even care about the Brewers. I guess for my personal preference, I'd kind of like them to be somewhat competitive. I don't want to have a non-year Brewer baseball, and maybe that's because I lived through so many bad years that I'd rather not have more. Kind of like the notion of the Brewers always sort of being like, there's that pleasant surprise of, man, the Brewers are still kind of in this. And I'm still used to the Brewers not being in playoff chases, and they're almost always are. It's not a World Series, I get that, but they're still there. So I think I come down on the side of constant competitiveness, and then maybe everything works out in a certain year. It would be nice to see a little more aggressiveness, but like I said, structurally, baseball kind of prevents that. Major League Baseball kind of prevents that from happening.
I don't think this is probably a factor in it all, but just based purely on a fan's perspective, I kind of want them to go for it just so Bob Uecker can maybe get a World Series.
Yeah.
I know that's not the way to go about it for building a team, right? That's not what you're supposed to do for an announcer. But it's kind of hard, just based purely on a fan that you'd like Bob Uecker to get a World Series.
He's
right?
like a Brewer, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense that we'd want him to finally get to call one of those.
Right.
And we're running out of time. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe he gets to triple digits. It's possible. So maybe he's got more than a decade to go. But yeah, there's urgency in that regard. But you go all in for Uke, and then it falls apart, and now he's like 92, and the Brewers are going to be a 60-win team.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So yeah, that would be nice, but I don't think so. So I think they're able to do it, but they've got more obstacles that we have.
Would you say though that maybe the Brewers, because we look at teams like the Royals that went for made the World Series for a couple years, ended up winning one of them, right? Mm-hmm. But when you kind of look at it though too with the Brewers and who they've got in the minors and maybe even a couple of the young guys that they've signed to long-term deals, like Freddie Peralta got him on the cheap. You hope Aaron Ashby kind of takes that same path. But you look at their farm, they got a boatload of outfielders, right? Mm-hmm. So part of me, though, too, kind of wonders, do they have a little bit of a cushion? Like, you know what? Maybe they can afford to spend a little bit more this offseason. And yet, in a couple years, they do have a nice cushion with farm. If they don't have to get rid of a lot of guys via trade or anything like that, but they would have a nice younger cushion of young players that they could, maybe in a couple years be full-time players.
It's better that they've
I'd rather have them sign free agents. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's if you don't make any trades and you just sign everybody via free agency.
It's better that they've built back up their minor league system. It was getting kind of thin 2, 3, 4 years ago. So, I mean, maybe that's part of what the Brewers are going through. And like simultaneous to building up their farm system, they had the 2021 season happen. That's fortuitous. I mean, had 2021 worked out well, that would have been really good. But I wonder if Stearns is actually doing a little bit of both. That staying competitive, but always making sure that you have, as you said, the cushion. You can kind of sort of fall back on having these talented minor leaguers you can build up. And you may have to have kind of a down year, maybe once or twice, but you're not going to have to go through like a 3-4 year period of rebuilding. And also it gives you more chips. How many times did we talk about potential trade bait with the Brewers? That's probably the most ongoing part of analysis of the Brewers going back to like 2015, 2016. All of the ways that, well, this player could be used to be traded for this guy, could be traded for da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It gets tiresome, but it's true. That's what Stearns is probably building up right now, whether he keeps building up or is he going off to some other team, but that's how he's building the team right now. So whomever is in that position going down the road will have those outfielders to either take over for big free agents that bust, and well, relatively big free agents, we're not talking the big ones, or can be used as trade bait to bring someone in if you need someone for a trade deadline deal.
Do you feel like this year's, I know last week I think I used the comparison to 2011, but maybe the better comparison is 2018 when he made the moves for like Lil Kane and Christian Yelich. And then look what happened. So I feel like this is the final year with Burns and Woodruff to go for it, because you got 2 more years of arbitration. But if to me, it's like, okay, if you know you're not going to keep either of those guys, or maybe you can keep one, you're probably going to trade one to get something in return.
That's probably the right move. Again, the Hader move was the right move for the franchise overall. The biggest picture look, the Hader move was the right move. I think dealing Burns or Woodruff, probably Woodruff, but one of the two will almost certainly be the right move eventually. Not now, not this offseason, not in the trade deadline unless the Brewers are having a really bad season, in which case then absolutely yes, one of them probably should be traded off to build back up. But this might be a bit I mean, it's not exactly last stand, but maybe some combination of like a 2018/2011 is like a hybrid year.
Yeah.
Where if you can go all in, great. But there is some younger potential that could keep this going a little bit. It really depends.
18, we didn't really know. I mean, we didn't expect Wade Miley to have a decent year, but that was also like a really wasn't you at least just seeing the number 1 pitcher, I think, for that 18 team?
I think so, yeah.
So, we know we got 2-3 decent starters. Now the question is just offense. But right. David Stearns also said, too, yesterday he wants to build up the back end of that starting rotation.
Well, I mean, okay, your top free agents, the ones, okay, mark off the list, and I'm just looking at position players, not pitchers. Mark off Aaron Judge, Trey Turner, Carlos Correa, bring in Xander Bogaerts or Dansby Swanson, probably not. Hey, Edwin Diaz, you could bring Narco over.
Yeah.
Wilson Contreras, would you want him
for a catcher?
Yeah,
I think you know what? I think you have to look at that position now. I hate to say it, but
would you want for first base? You want Trey Mancini or Jose Abreu or Josh Bell?
I would really like Josh
Anthony
Bell.
Rizzo.
I'd really like Josh Bell.
I mean, there's a bunch of first basemen they could bring in.
Mm-hmm. Will they do that, though? The part of me, though, too, is like, I feel like if there's a team that's going to do this, it's going to be the Brewers. Are they going to look at these free agents, or are they going to look at certain players and be like, okay, yeah, this guy hit 225. but let's factor in how many of those hits were within a shift. And then let's redo the numbers there. Oh, his batting average or his OPS would have been something like this. Like, I feel if there's a team that's going to do something like that, it's going to be the Brewers.
Take an analytical approach to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so actually he hit 265. So let's go after him because, he's a little bit cheaper because everybody thinks you hit 220. But, you take out the shift, which is going to happen next year, he would have hit 270.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if there's a team that's going to do that, it's going to be like a team like the Brewers.
I mean, granted, a lot of other teams are going to think that way, but not every single one will. I think there's got to be someone there that's going to one of those guys. I think potentially Bell's a nice option. I mean, Mancini didn't perform that great going over to Houston. Rizzo's getting up there a bit in age. I would shy away from him for that reason. Mm-hmm. He's been around just long enough.
Jace Peterson's market value, according to Spot Track, is $6.5 million. Oh,
wow.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know about that one.
No. But after that, then you start to get down into he's an outfielder, so you're doubling up again, and I kind of hope they don't go for an outfielder. But it'd be really funny if they brought in Jock Peterson. I mean, and the thing is, Brewer fans would love him immediately.
Yeah.
He is that. Yeah, he's that guy. The guy you hate until he's on your team, and then he's the guy you love. I don't know if he'd want to come to Milwaukee, but man, that would be. There's just for entertainment value. I want Jock Peterson to get signed by the Brewers. Plus, he does tend to perform more clutch later in the season. If that's an issue with the Brewers and hitting, that their hitting tends to not perform as well later in the season, maybe you need someone like a Jock Peterson who's not going to be the greatest hitter throughout the year. He's not old, but he's starting to get up there a bit. But he has this tendency to perform well when it really matters.
Mm-hmm.
That actually, I might be talking myself into Jock Peterson as a designated hitter, maybe?
Yeah, we still got to factor that into it, don't we?
I mean, what would you think? Okay, if you found out January 24th, Brewers signed Jock Peterson and David Stearns announces that he plans to use him as a designated hitter, your reaction is?
Okay, I want more.
Okay, I mean, presuming they've done more than that. But presuming that they are doing more than that, it's not the only signing. Is this on a level of, like I said, Grayson Allen, like, oh, really? Or are you actually like sneakily excited?
Yeah, I think Grayson Allen's a good comparison, actually.
He kind of is.
I think that is a good comparison.
Yeah. And a lot of Bucks fans, I don't think we're too keen on bringing him over. He performed okay. He still could. I mean, again, let's remember
a little bit more in the playoffs.
Right. So, and he was injured. I know. So that is an asterisk on that. But it's not the number one draft free agent move you want to make. But that would be an interesting one for the Brewers.
I'm just looking at some of the. So I said Jace Peterson Spot Track has him at 6.5. They also have Brandon Drury, who I would have loved the Brewers to acquire at the trade deadline. He's with the Padres. Mm-hmm. Same value. I would take Brandon. And I know Jace is a little bit more position versatile, but I'd take Brandon.
There's more of an upside if you bring in Brandon Drury. I agree.
Yeah.
Could you actually bring in Drury and Bell from San Diego?
Brandon's younger too.
Yeah. Steal from San Diego and bring them up. Hey, San Diego's got to start paying some people pretty soon here. So they might actually have an opportunity to.
They might be like what the Rams are going through now. They stink and they can't afford anybody right now. So
a little bit.
Yep.
But that's interesting. No, so they also have a Super Bowl. So.
Well, I mean, that's the example for Brewers fans. It's like, do you want to go what the Rams?
Right. Or ask if you can find a Royals fan around here.
Yeah.
I mean, ask them, what do you think? Does that still hold water? Look, you did get the World Series not that long ago. I mean, eventually.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I've never experienced World Series. I would take one and then, suffer for the next few.
Right. I mean, talk to me about football.
But it's different for me for Green Bay a little bit too. But I'm actually no, I'll take that back because now we don't know how long Aaron's playing. I would give me one more.
Well, right, and given the
5 years ago, I probably
if Jordan Love is the quarterback right now and Aaron Rodgers is in Denver, you're looking at this differently, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah,
if your team has won a like I have to remind myself of that with the Twins. With as frustrating as that team has become of late, I do have to stop myself and go, you did live through 2 World Series. You lived through one of the best ever. That happened to your team, Luke. It's okay. I mean, if the whole thing is just once in your lifetime, well, I got it twice in my lifetime. I'm set with regard to that team.
Let me ask you this. It might be a little bit different, and I know we got to take a really quick break. Bucks won a championship. What if that offseason Giannis left? Would it have been worth it for the one championship?
And again, I'm not a diehard Bucks fan, but I like him enough, and I got immersed enough in the team and wanting Giannis to stay and wanting to see the Bucks do well. I think it would have been like there's part of me that thinks the Bucks need to become still a bigger deal. I'm glad to see that the Bucks seem to be sort of the general consensus best team in the East, probably even the general consensus most likely NBA champion this year, and that Giannis could be even better with this. Like I can't, my brain can't compute Giannis being better, but apparently he's going to be probably better after give the first few weeks a little bit, don't count that because he's probably going to be recovering from Eurobasket a little bit. I think they would have been okay. Well, I mean, here's your close example. Cleveland Cavaliers. I think Cavalier fans look fine.
Got the one with LeBron.
They got it, and they're happy. It was way different than after 2010. And I think there would have been something comparable in Milwaukee, not quite as, but comparable had Giannis left without a title. Instead, he got the title. So, yeah, the mission accomplished there. I mean, you would have had plenty of bitter Bucks fans, but I think it would have worked out fine in that regard. So, yeah, just the championship is the thing. Yep. You with the Brewers, me with the Vikings, any of us who are fans of a team that hasn't gotten one, just get it. However you do it, legally, get it. No sticky stuff.
Legally.
just get it. That's all that matters.
All right. We got to take a quick break. Let's do a quick version of stock reports so we can hit up the showdown.
Okay.
Coming up after that. So quick break, and then we'll do a little stock reports after these few words. Right now, you're probably starting to put away the outdoor yard decor, ready for a long nap and dreading about all that leaf pickup that you're going to have to do if you haven't started already. Don't forget to get your vehicle ready for another Wisconsin winter season, and that's where ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire can help you out. Do you need some new tires to do battle against those snow-covered roads? ASAP Used Auto Parts, they can hook you up with not only the best tires, but at the best prices in the Chippewa Valley. What about those cold mornings? Don't cross your fingers hoping your car will start that morning. Take out the worry and get a new battery from ASAP Used Auto Parts. Oil change to keep your engine running smooth in these harsh winters? Yep, ASAP Auto Parts does that as well. Plus a wide, huge selection of high-quality used auto parts to help you save money for repairs or if you're remodeling a vehicle this winter. When it comes to helping make sure your vehicle is ready for the road, ASAP Used Auto Parts is ready to help you. All right, let's do some hey, guess what? I got sound effects. Yeah. Look at that. All right, there you go.
Wow,
Lucas.
nice.
Yeah, I like that. Getting fancy now.
Sweet.
So I got I'll start it off because I
Okay.
got a couple stock risers here for me.
What?
Two. One's a personal one.
Okay.
Everybody's gonna probably get annoyed because I keep kind of bringing it up. The Redeem Team Doc.
Yes.
My stock risers are Kobe and Coach K, personally, because I will never be a Duke fan. I am not a Duke fan. I still don't like Duke. But kind of listening and hearing to Coach K and how he motivates teams, it's pretty cool. And then the Kobe thing, like I remember when I was younger, and I think a lot of us did this as kids. If there was a player that you weren't a big fan on, oh, he's ball hog. He's Allen Iverson, he's ball hog. Kobe, he's a ball hog. The last few years kind of finding out about Kobe's work ethic is unreal. Like it's intense and I love it. So personally, those are my two personal ones. But I just saw Marshawn Lynch is joining Amazon football coverage pregame. That is going to be something, and they better have a bleep button ready. But I'm saying stock riser because I think we talked about it. Amazon had to do something different than the other pregame shows or other announcers, right? They had to do something different. And while a lot of people may not be fans of Richard Sherman or Marshawn Lynch, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Richard Sherman, Marshawn Lynch, that is definitely something different. So I'm going to say stock risers for that.
Okay. I can't believe I'm saying this for a stock riser, but the performance is proving itself out. Kirk Cousins.
Oh.
I mean, he's now had 3 late game drives to get the Vikings to wins. Granted, these are all games they probably shouldn't have found themselves in a position to be losing, but that's the reality. He has led them on late game drives. I mean, he's kind of Clutch Cousins. I haven't really heard those nicknames going around, but that's the reality of it. He's performed well when he needed to in a game situation when the pressure was on. He's done it thus far. Now, let's see how he does against, say, a rematch against Philadelphia, prime time at Lincoln Financial Field in the playoffs. How do you do then? That didn't look good, but otherwise actually looking pretty decent there. Like this is unexpected. I wasn't expecting it, but if this continues, that's a good sign for the rest of the season for the Vikings.
Yeah. Really quickly, my stock fallers. Brett Favre, go ahead. Your turn.
You don't need to go into more detail. Dan Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, it's a fun team. I know they got shut out. But at a certain point, you do have to win the games. And your risks should at some point maybe pay off a little bit more. Again, it's 5 games into the season. That's why I'm really hesitant to make too many NFL proclamations. I'm hesitant on all because there's enough time for stuff to change. But this is looking like this potentially could be a for whatever the worst case scenario is for the Lions, a realistic worst case scenario. It's starting to look like this might be that. I don't know, but they got to start executing better. They're fun, but they got to start executing.
Yeah. All right. That's 2 hours in. We're going to kick off the next hour. Doing a little showdown, 1982 versus 1991. Who's going to move on in our generation or our year brackets? Not generation, 10 years. Jace, come on, Dan, figure it out. Final hour on this Making the Turn Wednesday coming at you. Dan Kasper Show's on the air. Appreciate you tuning in wherever you're tuning in, however you're tuning in. Keep your votes coming for our Twitter poll that we got going on after David Stearns had his season-ending press conference yesterday. Do you have the confidence in David Stearns and this ownership group that they can build a team to compete for the World Series? Right now, 75% of you saying, nope, you don't have any sort of confidence whatsoever. None. So you can head to our Twitter pages and take a look on there and take a vote. But I'm excited for this show down here, Lucas, because I've been doing some looking up. I don't, you're the music guy. I'm not looking at the music ones right now. But in terms of movies and sports, we might have a good debate going on right now.
I think so.
I think we do. So, a little showdown theme music, too. I got a bunch of new hotkeys I got to.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
Nice.
You like that?
I like that. Yeah.
Start off with 82.
All right.
Let's you want to do the sports first?
Yeah.
In 82?
All right. Brewers,
we know 82.
yes, that happened.
I will also, not to jump in here, but I would just say 82 and 91 both had really good Super Bowls.
They did. The Super Bowl in January of 82, that was the first 49ers one. And they beat
Hey, is that John Candy?
No, that's the second one.
Oh, was that the second one? I thought that was against the
89.
Bengals. Oh, I thought that was the 91.
This one was in Detroit. Well, Pontiac to be precise. But
That's right. You're right. Dang it. Okay.
But that was the one with the fourth with the goal line stand by the 49ers.
Yep.
That was a good Super Bowl. That January, which that same month was was that insanely cold game, the AFC Championship game, the Bengals beating the Chargers. That was like the second coldest game by wind chill. And if you adjust for the modern thing, you know how they changed it like a couple decades ago, so the numbers actually weren't as bad as they thought they were. Still, I think it is the second coldest next to the Ice Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But then before that,
82 was also the strike, though, right?
That's the problem. The following season was the strike season. That out and out sucked. I mean, there was nothing. Want some fun watching? Look up things that were being broadcast on TV on Sunday afternoons during the NFL strike.
Yeah,
I think there's like Madden Summerall doing like Division III football stuff like that. I mean, they had to find stuff. But back to January of 82, that was I guess you'd call it the Kellen Winslow game, but it was that hot game in Miami, Chargers, Dolphins, score-a-thon, and then Winslow,
the leg.
Kind of being helped off the field.
That iconic image.
That was January 1982. So the beginning of the year, NFL-wise, was incredibly and I forgot one particular game that month. So I've already gone through the Super Bowl, which is pretty good. AFC Championship game, not a close game, but a memorable game. The Dolphins-Chargers game, an all-timer. And then there was the catch.
That was
the NFC Championship game.
49ers Cowboys.
Gosh, talk about burying the lead. That's actually a game that I with Vin Scully's passing, I'm meaning when we get around playoff time, I'm going to do that thing where I watch the entire game broadcast with Vin Scully on the call for CBS. The last time that Scully was the main CBS NFL voice, I want to watch that the whole game, because I mean the game video's out there, plenty of places. I just need to bring it up on YouTube or something and watch the game start to finish. That was in January of 82.
I've got another baseball one besides the Brewers one. This was also the start. Cal Ripken Jr. played his first game. Played first of what would be the obvious record breaker.
That
on there. So
Metrodome opened in 82. Let's see what else.
North Carolina beat Georgetown in the
an all-time classic and tournament game. I remember back in mid-90s, CBS did one of those weekend afternoon. This is during the tournament, recapping 4 classic games, and that was one of them. The other ones were the Jimmy V game.
If anybody's that's the Jordan shot.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody's trying to like, what was it? It's the Jordan.
Mm-hmm. And then also Villanova over Georgetown, and then the 93, the Chris Webber game. But yeah, 82 was a great that was a great game. That's another one that I again go back and watch that. Fascinating watch, see that go back and forth, the four corner stall from the Tar Heels. Yeah, that was a great game there. Celtics, let's see, they fell to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That was the beat LA game.
Mm-hmm.
If you've heard the chant, I mean, in fact, just the other day I was hearing in the background after the Padres beating the Mets.
Oh yeah,
and you could hear in the background, beat LA, but it started the 82 Eastern, I think it was the Eastern Conference Finals in 82. And after the Sixers beat the Celtics, then the Celtics fans chant to the Sixers, beat LA. Like, how often does that happen? Basically, like, yeah, you beat us, you're our arch rival, we hate you, but go beat that other team. That happened in 82. There's a lot sports-wise. Islanders won one of their 4 straight titles. That was their 3rd of 4. In hockey.
Gretzky was doing his thing that year.
So that's just
82 is really good.
It is. There was, outside of the actual NFL season, which right.
Then 91, we had the Giants over the Bills.
Another memorable moment, another classic Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That was great that year.
That was the Bill Belichick one where he was defensive coordinator, where they what was the game plan? They let Thurman Thomas run, but they were taking away the pass.
Mm-hmm. It worked.
It worked.
It worked. So an excellent Super Bowl, an excellent moment before that with Whitney Houston and the Star Spangled Banner. So that happened in 91. Baseball.
Hey, by the way, do you know who won the Heisman that year?
For the 91 season?
Be the Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard, yes,
Yep.
with the Post. So that happened, 91. Baseball is, like I said, and it's not just that the Twins won the World Series, but that it was one of the greatest World Series of all time. It's top 5. Depends on how you look at it. You can make arguments also for 01, 16, 60 are all rank up there, but 91 is always in the discussion as one of the absolute greatest World Series in terms of its competitiveness. All of the games that were won on the last at bat, back and forth nature of the game, the Jack Morris game, the Kirby Puckett game. Oh my gosh. Just take out my fandom. That's unequivocally one of the best
Chuck
performances.
Knobloch was Rookie of the Year.
He was, yes.
Yeah.
It was the worst of first year too. Both the Twins and the Braves. That begat the Braves run in the 90s. So baseball was really good that year.
Mm-hmm. Jeff Bagwell was NL Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
So basketball was Duke over Kansas.
Yeah.
Larry Johnson, College Player of the Year, Naismith Player of the Year.
But on the pro level, who won their first title in 1991?
That would be the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan in the Bulls.
And not the most memorable series, but that was the start for Jordan. That it had to begin somewhere, and that was it.
Yep.
Hockey-wise, Penguins won their first back-to-backs, beating the North Stars, but they won. They looked good doing it too.
Couple of boxing ones just because of note, but Evander Holyfield defeated George Foreman to retain heavyweight titles, and Mike Tyson was on his rise there too.
Wasn't that the year Jimmy Connors had his bit of a comeback? I think at the U.S. Open. I think it was 1991. I'm trying to remember which year, but I think that was 1991. So, there's a lot going on between those 2 years.
I've got my pick though.
I'm leaning 82.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going 82 as well.
There are so many. There are more iconic moments that happened.
I will say 91 too was also when Magic Johnson announced his
that
with his AIDS.
Not a great
or HIV, I should say.
Not a great moment.
No, but remember when you just because you brought up memorable moments, but yeah, tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS. So. All right, so we're going both 82 in sports.
Yes.
How about films? Now this is going to get interesting here. So 82 must have been a horror type of year for some of these because Poltergeist, I'm going based off sort of by popularity on IMDb.
Okay.
Poltergeist was 1. The Thing was 2. Wait, this is 1982. I was like, wait.
Friday the 13th Part 3.
Halloween Part 3. Blade Runner. Creep Show. E.T. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Conan the Barbarian, First Blood, Rambo. Tootsie, Annie, Tron, Grease 2,
Arthur,
Rocky 3.
An Officer and a Gentleman. Yeah, there are a lot of good ones in this.
Well, I thought there was another one I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of scrolling through here. Oh, Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, man.
Khan!
Yeah.
Yeah, 48 Hours.
Airplane 2, the sequel.
Yeah. The movie that beget my Mike McCarthy jelly reference.
Yep.
Which if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. I think 91's going to get the advantage, though, here.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs, The Addams Family, City Slickers, Point Break, great movie. They should never remade it. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Hook, I remember that as a kid. Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman.
Phil Collins brief I was seen in there.
Yeah. Really? Phil Collins was in there?
Like very briefly, but he's in there.
What, is he a pirate?
No. Oh, what was... I got to...
Okay, you look that up. But I remember getting Happy Meal toys from this movie as a kid. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I liked the movie, although Kevin Costner, horrible accent.
Inspector Good.
Oh, okay. So it must have been right at the beginning when the kids were taken.
Yep,
okay.
that was Phil Collins. Mm-hmm.
Beauty and the Beast. We've got Child's Play 3. We've got I'm Saving One. JFK. I mean,
yeah,
you know, Oliver Stone.
Yeah, you said Boys in the Hood?
I did. I'm
Okay.
Saving One. Just the Backdraft was on here.
Doc Hollywood was out that year. I like that one. New Jack City. Pretty influential. The Rocketeer.
Secret of the Ooze.
Thelma and Louise. I thought that was the one you were holding.
Nope, I got another one. Oh, Necessary Roughness is I'm a big fan of that movie.
Yeah, Sleeping with the Enemy was that year.
Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear. But the one I was holding out on is because it's a classic, and I wish it was on TV more. Ernest, Scared, Stupid. Love it. Those trolls were creepy, man. Those wooden dolls. The troll would like transform kids into wooden dolls. It's creepy.
So I like when I was looking up 1991 top movies, and you see the Google list is what's the popular ones, and there My Girl. Did you say that? Okay. I mean, there's some that are obvious, and then there are a couple you're like, wait, how did that get in the list? And so, like, for example, Ernest, Scared, Stupid. And now it's not coming up when I think it's because I was looking up top box office, but Career Opportunities showed up. I'm like, wait, what? I don't even remember that. But here's why. Because it's a scene with a younger Jennifer Connelly, and it's one of those movies that gets put in a bunch of YouTube videos and keeps showing up. It's just like, no, that has nothing to do with what I'm watching, but it keeps getting pushed out there because it's young Jennifer Connelly. And so that's one where I bet most people never seen that movie.
Mm-hmm. You've never seen Ernest, Scared, Stupid?
I've seen one of the Ernest movies.
Probably the Christmas one, maybe.
I don't know which
one. Or is
one
it the camp?
Well, maybe I did see Ernest, Scared, Stupid. I don't remember. I did like Ernest back in the day. I was an Ernest fan. Oh, boy.
R.I.P.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going 91.
I think so, too.
So it's going to come down to the music now, Lucas.
All right. Album-wise. Well, 1982 was when Thriller was released.
Oh, that's your favorite. So you got
1982 was when 1999 was released. 1982 was when Rio was released. There's some really good albums that came out in 1982. Other ones, I mean, those are probably like top 10 albums there. Bruce Springsteen's real sparse album, Nebraska, came out that year. Men at Work's Business as Usual. Well, it actually came out in 81 to be precise, but it was popular here in 80. Toto 4, shout out Brandon Berg, came out in 1982. John Mellencamp's big breakthrough, American Fool, the one that has Jack and Diane and Hurt So Good. That came out in
Eye of the Tiger came out in 82, didn't it?
It did. So if you're talking just songs that came out in 82, Eye of the Tiger was one of them. I mean, there are a lot of big ones that were at the beginning of the year that were technically 81 songs, like I Love Rock and Roll and Centerfold. Hard to Say I'm Sorry was 1982.
I know this one started in 81. I'm just kind of looking so you can jump, but like Physical with Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of tied over. But there was a lot of good Good music. Okay. The intro to this show, which is the run out music for the Chicago Bulls,
the Alan Parsons Project.
that was 1982. That's
Okay.
when that one came
Done.
out. Uh-huh.
Done.
Yeah. 1991. All right. 91 songs, 91 albums. Nevermind from Nirvana. 10 from Pearl Jam. Octung Baby from U2. Out of Time from REM. Metallica's the Black Album. All came out. Bad Motorfinger from Soundgarden. All came out in 1991. What am I mean, I went through some of the absolute Low End Theory from A Tribe Called Quest. Blood Sugar Sex Magic came out in 1991. These are some really good albums. Musically, I Want to Sex You Up was the number 2 single in 1991. But Everything I Do It For You, classic, came out in 1991. Motown Philly, back again. 1991. I mean, single-wise, yes, not as great. Album-wise, there a lot of the same genre, but that was a year that changed music. There aren't many where like a certain thing happened and there was a paradigm shift. Nirvana did that.
Mm-hmm. I already got my vote. So,
gosh, this is tough because again, you take out Thriller in 1999, and wow, that is a vacuum.
But you can't.
But gosh, 91 had. I'm gonna go 1991.
I'm going 82.
Really?
Yep. I'm going 82.
Wow. We got a split.
Mm.
This is a tie.
Tell you what, I'm going to do it this way. If he's listening, Surveyor Sam gets the tie-breaking vote.
Okay.
So, tie-breaking vote.
And it has to be based on these 3 categories. It can't just be like, hey, I went on a. Was Surveyor Sam born in 1982?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Presuming he was. This can't be like, hey, we went on a really fun family trip to Albuquerque. That does not give 82 or 91. I'm pretty sure he was born by then. Mm-hmm. That does not count. You have to do this based on movies, music, or sports that happened in the calendar year 1982 or 1991.
Mm-hmm.
Surveyor Sam, if you're listening, those are your parameters. Tell us.
You got it.
Break the tie.
All right. We'll wait to hear from Surveyor on that. So sports, we went with 82.
Mm-hmm.
Movies, we went with 91.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're split on the music.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're gonna give it to Surveyor. So,
by the way, 1991 me would have taken 1982 musically in like 0.3 seconds. A lot of the big albums that I was referencing from 91, I could not stand them back then. It took me a long time to appreciate and understand how good they were. Just my musical tastes. Like the 82 stuff holds up, but it took a long time to understand why the stuff in 91, why grunge, why that kind of music is actually good. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was just like, this is just a bunch of people just not even really trying hard, and they're not wearing anything cool. It's just, well, I get it now as an adult. Maturity will change a lot after you're in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. Good stuff. We'll see where Surveyor's at. If it's not Surveyor, we'll pick somebody else to make the vote.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to do our Good Vibes story, Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Good Vibes story. We'll get you an update on the Twitter poll for the David Stearns question, or I guess it's the ownership of the Brewers and the front office for the Brewers. Do you have that trust in them? And then we'll hit up some more baseball talk, and then get back to a little bit more football talk as well. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, we got a winner, Luke.
Surveyor Sam chiming in.
Surveyor Sam did, and also our sales manager.
Dan Gainey.
Yep.
That's his name. And so if you ever hear us talk about, hey, come work for our radio station, email Dan. That's who you're
Both
emailing.
picked the same year.
That is
91.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
91. Surveyor went with the year he was born, 91.
So not a movie, not a thing. He was born.
Yeah.
Why did our sales manager choose 91?
He said it was tough. He said that he was in the he actually stayed in the car to wait and listen to us banter it out. He really liked that segment. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
We're inhibiting our own employees from working.
Mm-hmm. So
dang, that's pretty cool.
I have the tiger. I take offense. I'm just saying. That's never mind. That's a rabbit hole we could go down, but we won't. I trust you guys. Luke, you're the music guy, so I trust you.
Yeah, I mean,
trust you.
Look, I could go either way on this. I think there's more like
Metalhead Mold went 91 too on Twitter.
Okay.
So, wow, I really thought it was going to go 82, but Metalhead Mold, yeah, okay, maybe I'm the oddball in this one.
Okay, that's fine. And admittedly, there's personal preference. Thriller and Rio are two for why I could have gone 82. Thriller and Rio are two of my top 5 favorite albums of all time. So they happen to be in the same calendar year. So there's a bit of bias towards that. But they're also mega iconic. Thriller is, I mean, how do you try to describe that? I mean, it's, without Thriller, like I said, where pop music is so dramatically different. You could take out some of, maybe even a couple of those big albums from 1991. And while music is definitely different, I don't think it changes like the direction of where music has gone. Whereas you take Thriller out, there's no Billie Jean, there's no Beat It, there's no Thriller. That's all gone. Michael Jackson does not be like, let's just say he takes 7 years off between albums. I don't think he becomes the GOAT at that point. I mean, Thriller made that happen. He was on the track towards it. Maybe, potentially, depending on how you assessed. Thriller was rocket fuel.
All right.
So but gosh, there was a lot of stuff in 91.
Okay. 91 advances.
I wanna sex you up.
Well, I would just say we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. 4 of the 5 have been from the 90s. Every 90s year is advanced.
I'm kind of impressed by that.
And 90s is my jam, so I guess I can't complain too much. So
yeah. Wow.
But we've gotten 90, 91, 92, and 94 that have all advanced. The other one was 85.
Would not have thought that. But
the years that have not advanced, 78, 66, 87, 70, and 82. All right.
Wow. And I don't think that's survived, like not survived, but a live bias. I think it just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah. So, all right. Wow. Yeah, right. Okay. So quick updates. Again, I know we've hit it hard on and with the Brewers chat, but still 75% of you say no, you don't have any trust in David Stearns and this Brewers front or Brewers ownership group to make this team a contender. Let's hit on some football chat here. Packers will be back at practice today as they get ready for the 3-2 Jets. Did you see who gets the call for this game by chance?
I have not seen. Who is it?
It's the #1 team for NFL on Fox. Who would have thunk a Packers-Jets game would get Greg Olsen, Kevin Burkhardt, Aaron Andrews?
Wow.
That's what you get when the Jets actually have a winning record, I guess.
New York City, baby.
3-2 Jets coming to the 3-2 Packers.
Wow. Yeah, because the 506 hasn't updated their at least not that I. Yeah, they haven't updated for this week yet, but I think they update later on today, so I haven't seen the maps yet. But no, that's good. So what do you think about I just was reading this morning ESPN's rundown of the top 10 rookies in the league. 3 of them are Jets.
Oh, hey, I mean, Sauce Gardner's on there.
Breece Hall is on there.
Is Garrett Wilson the other one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the 3. So wide receiver, running back, cornerback. And they legitimately all are doing well, especially Hall and Gardner. Why do I feel like they're due for a rookie game? And maybe not all three combined. The odds of that happening is pretty long.
Mm-hmm.
But my initial stock faller was Joe Barry.
Okay.
And then I came off that thinking, gosh, are they really this bad? Like, it feels like something's going to shake them out. The defense is going to be shaken out of whatever funk that they've been in for most of this season thus far. Not that the Jets are necessarily an elixir or anything, but something's going to happen. We're like, okay, yeah, that's who we thought they were going to be. Shout out Denny Green. But I think as talented as the Jets actually are kind of showing themselves to be, I think the Packer defense is going to have a better game this week. I mean, look, they got to do
but
well
how much
on,
you take
on the
away
run.
from that because it is the Jets.
Right. Well, and that's part of the stereotype. Like, oh, it's the Jets. Easy. Well, no, I mean, this is a different team.
Although they've been pretty crappy against Giants and Patriots, against third-string quarterbacks and practice squad receivers. So take what we can get.
I mean, how much did we think that the Packers are going to be the Giants? Because LOL Giants, Daniel Jones, but we're not even really factoring. I mean, if you're not paying attention, like, no, this Giants team's playing a lot different right now. Same with the Jets. They are playing different. Jets had the best DVOA of any team in football this past week. I mean, okay, Miami was also playing a third-string quarterback, but the Jets did have again, DVOA as a regular reminder is talking about the efficiency of how well did you play overall. Did you play an efficient game, which is what you want to do ultimately. Don't make it hard on yourself. Make it easy. And that's what the Jets did. So,
but to ask a stupid question, is it easier to play efficient football against a third-string quarterback who has like no experience?
Of course it is.
Oh.
But not every team does that either. No. The Jets did. And this is another one of those, the guys are playing for the coach kind of teams, like the Giants. They seem to be playing for Robert Saleh as well, pretty strongly. I feel like this game's going to go one or two ways. Either we're going to have like alarm bells going off Monday morning in Packer world, or they're going to right the ship. It feels like it's going to go one of the two ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could end up being a close one, but if it's a close one, it's going to be like disappointingly close. Like there's going to be enough that alarm bells are going off, not to the point of like, wow, is Aaron Rodgers, should he have come back to not to that degree, but it would be one of those. Okay, this is going to sound really stereotypical of the Packers of the past 3 years or so. As great as they have been, the shutdown in like the third, early fourth quarter, that's happened enough that if it happens again, Packers get out to like a 2-touchdown lead, they find themselves early fourth quarter, maybe being up by 3. People are going to start. I think that's where the alarm bells start going. Like, come on, again, this is not getting fixed. They need to fix that. Above just like bad rushing defense, figuring out your off. Stop shutting down in the second half. Happens a scary amount with this team over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the Achilles heel of the Packers? Not so much a position where like it used to probably be inside linebacker was like their bugaboo. Is it now their ability to play 4 straight quarters of really good football?
I think you make a point there. I mean, you kind of look at it. I mean, you'd have to probably go back to last year, but this year you can make the case that they have not played 4 straight solid quarters.
It feels like the second half, and especially like the third, early fourth quarter, this is something about
second half. They have averaged. We had a texter yesterday. Was it 5.4 points per game in the second half? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's not great.
Where is the whole 2019 all gas, no break mantra that LaFleur threw out there?
What happens at halftime? I'd like to know.
Yeah.
What happens in the locker room that does not sufficiently motivate the team to continue going forward? I'm not saying that there's like a one phrase that Matt LaFleur can say. No. But what is it? And I'm sure they're trying to figure it out too. They see the stats. They know what's going on. But what is that?
There's, I'm going to bring this up because I know I've talked about the pass defense this whole week here, but it's giving me flashbacks of Mike Pettin and Mike Pettin's quote, "It's easier to fly to Miami than it is to run," where he talked about his preference in stopping the pass over the run. And you kind of look at this team and it's like, oh man, is that kind of the same thing? And this is, example like where stats don't tell you everything, because you look at passing yards allowed, Green Bay second best. And I know we talked about the crossing routes with the yards that they allowed. Mike Renner said it wasn't even close. Green Bay's the worst. Almost half their yards coming from crossing routes. But here's another little couple stats to kind of show you numbers wise. Packers have, this according to Zach Cruz, Packers have an NFL low 7 passes defensed. Just 7. 7 passes defensed.
Gosh.
Packers are giving up an NFL high 72.9 completion percentage. Yet they're second in the league in passing yards allowed. So here's the thing. Packers are facing an NFL low average depth of target of just 5.9 yards.
So they're just giving up a lot of short passes.
Yes. Crosshairs, short passes.
Right.
That stuff.
But it adds up.
It adds up. And
that's
it
the
goes
problem.
back to the whole thing is like, you've got so much freaking money and draft invested in your secondary. Why aren't you letting them get up there and get in their face and play instead of this cushion? You're letting them get free releases off the line of scrimmage. You've got the speed for makeup speed, for crying out loud. Why aren't they allowing them to play a little physical up at the line?
Some teams are bend, don't break teams.
They're so scared of giving up a big play.
Right. Like I was trying, which team was it that I saw? I think it was the Vikings, because I saw the stat over the weekend on a defense, and it was towards the beginning of the game. And the only game I began watching was the Vikings game. And I think they have their offense, was it against the run, against the pass, were in the 20-something percentile, but then overall they're 13th or something, or maybe it was scoring or something. And I saw that and I went, oh, bingo. That's the definition of a bend, don't break offense. You give up a lot of stuff, but then you hold at the back end. The problem is the Packers are breaking just enough. There are enough times that teams get close enough to the end, they don't quite execute at the end zone. DVOA wise, the Packers defense is the worst of the 3 categories. They're I think I have to bring it up. It was 23rd or something like that in defensive DVOA this season. I mean, it's not good. It's not. It's
is it the players? Is it the coordinator? Did we overvalue these players?
There was skepticism on Joe Barry coming into last year.
Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest disappointment of the Packers this season. I was high on their defense based on everything I'd heard. I'm and the talent I knew was on this team, I thought they were going to be, I thought that would probably carry them early this season. It hasn't really done that thus far. I mean, where's your level of evaluation on the 2022 edition of Jair Alexander?
Mm-hmm.
Are you and the answer could be I'm not, but how disappointed are you in Jair Alexander?
The thing is I don't know if he's being put in position to really play at the level that he can play. That's my thing. I don't know if they're utilizing him properly. I mean, he made a couple of great plays early in the game. Open field tackles, diagnosing that. That's a guy, if he's getting paid as much as he's getting paid, I want him to play man coverage and take out the number 1 receiver. So part of me is I just don't know if they're using him properly at this point. I mean, you're talking about lining up against Darius Slayton, Marcus Johnson, Richie James, and you're not going to go one-on-one coverage against those guys? With Jair and Stokes and Douglas, who you gave a big contract to? Come on. What are we doing here?
I don't get it. Now, okay, the one explanation could be that they're trying something different this season early on, and that it comes to fruition as the season goes along. We've seen that with other teams before. That's the charitable explanation, but that could be what we're seeing. The problem is, are you seeing something in the scheming where you're gosh, if they execute this just a little better? Again, okay, I'm going to do the dreaded Viking analogy, but I started to see in the Bears game some hints of, like, I know there were some wide open offensive plays in the Packer game, but in the Bears game, I saw some hints of, okay, this is what O'Connell wants to do. They don't get the schemes just yet. They don't get all the packages just yet. They're learning. If they can do some of this stuff, like the trickery behind and handing off to Rager for the touch, they do that all the time. Yeah, they're going to be high octane. They're just not there yet. Are you seeing any of that with the Packer defense? Like, okay, they're trying something here. Once they get it, they'll be good. Or is it just a big question mark? I'm not seeing it really, but you are better analytically at that. Or what are you seeing? Anything that looks like a new scheme that they're just not understanding?
It just looks like there's a lack of communication in the back end. It just looks like, because you have to. It just looks like, I don't know what, for whatever reason, it looks like there's, if they're playing the zone and you got teams, and maybe it just could be teams have identified this, that, okay, we're going to run a lot of these over the middle short passes. We've identified this weakness within this defense, and maybe there's that miscommunication going, but like, when you play a zone, it's like you get to a certain zone and then, the next guy picks it up there. We're not seeing that on a consistent basis. I'm not buying the whole Devondre Campbell is overrated. Devondre Campbell finished with one of the best coverage grades last week against the Giants, actually. So
he needed that.
Yeah, and he did. And yeah, is he playing up to the level as he did last year? No, he's not. But I mean, let's also face it, he graded as one of the higher graded linebackers last week in Pro Football Focus, especially in the coverage, pass coverage. So I don't know. Something's not clicking right now for whatever reason. And there's too many dogs on this defense for it to be playing as porous as it is right now.
Okay, now is some of this a combination of, again, let's just throw week one away, because I always do that. Should do that here. Is this a bit of the last two games we've seen against one of the brightest minds to ever be in the world of football coaching, and Brian Daboll, who is acquitting himself excellently? I mean, he's clearly the best coach of the new coaches this year, but we knew he was a really good assistant coach. And
Chargers should have hired him 2 years ago. That was my pick.
Yeah. They can keep going for it on 4th and 1 and all sorts of circumstances. Is that the part of the explanation too, that they're going up against they have some good competition in terms of coaches, and that you're not necessarily going.
We're getting out coached.
Well, right. And I've been a high on Matt LaFleur, but maybe okay.
Mike Kafka has outcoached Joe Barry in that second half.
Yes.
Matt Patricia, for crying out loud, calling offensive plays, outcoached Joe Barry for a good chunk in New England.
But Matt Patricia got a job too, because he was good with the Patriots the first time around. We could thought Matt Patricia.
Was it that, or was it a Bill Belichick effect? Look at the Raiders with Josh. I thought Josh McDaniels. I mean, come on now, and it's like Raiders. I think they just must do really. They do better when they're under the world of Belichick. Or is it because Belichick controls everything?
Oh, that's part of being in the world of Belichick. Is, well, you don't have complete control over that. Otherwise, you would have performances like we've seen, all on their own, all collectively on one team. What's more confusing about this is that Joe Barry was supposed to bring a simpler defense. Because the counter to my whole thing about, is this a new scheme? Well, the knock on Mike Pettin was that his schemes were too complex.
Yeah.
So how come these veterans, it's not like they've got a ton of new players. They've got some. Quay Walker. Walker got a little bit of a mention, not in the top 10, but he got a bit of a mention in that ESPN Plus article.
Mm-hmm.
But
there's a chunk of fans already saying he's a bust. I'm like, we're 5 games into his rookie year. What are we doing?
He's not a bust. No.
I mean, come on. Did we not learn from Rashawn Gary?
Rashawn Gary is the classic example of, wow, not a great start to like, is he the number one player on the defense right now?
Him or Kenny Clark?
Yeah, Clark's had a good season too. Gosh, yeah, that's a tough one. I almost want to say Gary overall, but
Clark is
Kenny
still
Clark
doing.
out there.
Yes, he's still doing stuff that's really. I mean, how many times have we seen him in the backfield?
Yeah,
right away?
I think Clark's one, but Gary is a strong number 2. And the problem for the Packer defense is who's the third best guy and performing guy in defense this season?
That's a really good question.
Right.
That's a maybe I'd probably go Adrian Amos.
I was kind of thinking that, and that's not great, but yeah, Amos seems to have been around more good plays. This is saying something that we've not yet mentioned. Jair Alexander in the top 3. I get it. Kenny Clark's, but Jair Alexander should be a top 3 player right now on the Packers.
Yeah, I just and again, is it his play or are they utilizing these players to the best of their ability?
I'm confused. I will be really interested to see how they go against a sneaky good Jets offense.
I'm not trying to overlook it because I think these 2 weeks are must wins for Green Bay, in my opinion. I want to see how this defense goes up against Buffalo. I mean, you want to talk about speed? Look at Davis last week from Buffalo. And then you got Stephon Diggs over there, for crying out loud.
The only good thing, and this really isn't that good of a thing, is that Buffalo really doesn't run the ball that much. And that's the biggest problem with
Please, Carolina, don't trade McCaffrey there. Just don't. Don't.
But here's why it's not that great of a qualifier. Josh Allen can then run the ball like crazy. I mean, Josh Allen's probably going to have a game with like 2 touchdowns, but
for crying out loud, Daniel Jones with a busted up ankle or something was running the football on him.
Josh Allen's probably going to run for 130 and with 2
He's going to look like
touchdowns.
Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick out
He's
there.
going to have one of those games. That's what's going to happen. Buffalo will end up winning by like 3 touchdowns, but it won't be like they did against Pittsburgh. It's not going to be bombs away.
I've already got it as a loss unless something happens in the next 2 weeks.
The Packers have to have a really good game against New York to make me think that they've got a shot against Buffalo. Because going into I still call it Rich Stadium. Wow. Going into that's frightening. How many yards does Breece Hall get?
That's the thing, though, with Green Bay's defense. It's like, okay, you knew Tampa was going to run the football, right? They stopped Leonard Fournette. You look at Saquon Barkley, you take away that 40-yard run, he doesn't have a lot of success running the football. But then you have the outliers of like New England. It's like, okay, you know they're going to run the ball, but yet they did a good job of running on the outside. David Montgomery had his way. It's so inconsistent. You would think like, okay, Breece Hall, they're going to try to stop that, but it's been up and down.
Yeah,
I don't know. We're heading into week 6, and I don't know what to expect with this defense.
This is where
it's an EKG.
This is where I'm wondering if Hall has an off week, which goes against how this matchup should go. He should have a really good week. I'm wondering if he has a bit of an off week again. And I'm just saying that as like a rookie thing.
I'll tell you right now, I'm picking Green Bay to win this, and I'm basing it mostly off of, I hope they're pissed off. And I hope Aaron Rodgers is pissed off. And I hope this is a pride game for like this defense a little bit too. To go out there. We'll hear from Joe Barry later in the week. But it's like I said earlier this week, like, you listen to LaFleur, not a whole lot of times are they going to go out there and say, yeah, we suck or we need to really change this. Joe Barry's going to go out there and defend his game plans to the media. It's like, he's not going to sit there and be like, yeah, I'm not doing a good job. He ain't going to say that. No. Whatever answers we want or whatever answers we want to hear, we're not going to hear it.
Of course not. It's coach speak.
Right. So it's like for anybody that's like, oh, because I guarantee you there's going to be a good contingent that's going to be upset. Like, oh, he's not going to change. He ain't going to say anything. What do you expect? It'd be like, Luke, you going up in front of everybody's and, I picked crappy music today. You ain't going to do that.
No, if I screw it up with some of my choices, I'm not going to come right out and say, hey, listeners, here's another bad song for you that I picked. No, we're not going to do that. But that's being honest, but you're going to find a way without not being truthful, but you're just not going to say everything. So
I don't think Joe Barry will get fired during this season.
No, he will
happening.
Not. No, he will not.
I know Jerry Gray's on staff and whatever, but I just don't see that happening.
The defense isn't that bad. That's the thing. again, going back to DVOA, Aaron Schatz had a good way of pointing out that like the worst defense and the worst offense thus far this season are actually among in the history of DVOA, which goes back now to 1981. They've gotten as far back. That's impressive that they were able to find as many plays. It's actually among the best worst offenses and like the best worst defenses. See where I'm going? Like it's
So maybe that was going to the question I was going to ask you. Do you agree with Tom Brady, what he said like almost 2 weeks ago, that there's just a lot of bad football being played?
right, but there's a lot of bad football, but there's not something out. With the exception, as Schatz pointed out, the Colts offense actually is really, really terrible. Other than that, there's a lot of mediocre. I think that's maybe the better way to put it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean so. If you're a Packer fan going, "Wow, our defense is bad," really, it's not that bad. It's not what it's at our expectations were that it was going to be good.
Maybe that's it.
And it's not good by NFL standards, but it's not bad to the point that you like. I would be worried for the Packer direction if they fired Joe Barry midseason.
That's that to me is like just showcasing how panicked they are.
Oh gosh, why would they? Well, that's also not. I mean, I know they fired Mike McCarthy midseason, but something was clearly off there.
Although, I mean, there's examples of it working. Ravens, when they won their Super Bowl with Flacco, they fired their offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Cam Cameron.
I
but
mean,
also, do you know who replaced him?
Oh, who was it?
It was, I just blanked on his name. Lions head coach.
Dan Campbell.
No. Colts and Lions head coach.
Oh.
Wisconsin guy. Oh, for the love of Mary. Somebody help me out here. You know him, Luke.
I do. It's brain shut down.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Why did I just have a huge brain fart?
The 2012.
Jim Caldwell. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Jim Caldwell.
Speaking of
thank you, Google.
Deer in the headlights looks.
Wow.
But yeah. Well, I mean, the one way there is one scenario where Barry gets fired.
If they allow 45 points against the Jets. And if Carson Wentz throws for 400 yards.
Okay. If they surrender 45 points to the Commodores. Hey, that is a military rank term, mind you. Commodores actually it's not ridiculous, even though I'm starting to think of Lionel Richie right now. If they surrender 45 points to the Commanders, that is that could be getting into fireable offense territory. But in all seriousness, the one way he could be let go, using the 2012 example, but not that it's an exact clone, is if he has lost the unit. They're not communicating because there's a big disconnect going on. And the McCart and Murphy and Gutekunst and LaFleur all go, they're Barry and everyone else is in a different, they're in two universes here.
Yeah.
That's the one way that it happens. And that might be the explanation for why they're performing so poorly. Short of that, no, he will not be fired. And I don't think that happens anyway.
We got to take a break here because we only got a couple minutes left, but please, for the love of Mary, don't let Mike McCarthy come to Green Bay and just, pull a Brett Bielema.
Oh, gosh.
Don't do it. I'll be there, too.
It's in play now.
Yeah. All right, we only got about a minute left here, so can't really get into a whole lot. But to answer Aaron's question, does anyone know what the identity of this offense is? I think it's running the football. They just don't do it enough.
Right now they're learning. That's my identity. They're a kindergarten offense. I know that sounds like an insult, but it's not really. They're figuring it out.
I mean, I think, though, too, at the beginning of the year, we expected growing pains, or we should have expected growing pains with the passing offense, right? You know, a little inconsistency. We knew that they were going to have to rely on Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. The only problem is, are they doing it enough?
We knew this was good. Yeah, right. But now there, I can understand if their approach is, we want to get the receivers to become more comfortable. And if that sacrifices stuff earlier on, we're not using what's stronger earlier on. That's okay. I if that's the explanation, I understand it. I can live with that.
Yeah, I think, like, to me, for the defense, it was like, you know, for all the expectations and the hype that we had or everybody was talking about, regardless of what, like, the second half of the offense, if you have a 2-touchdown lead, championship defenses should be able to hold on to that, right?
Yes.
And we didn't see that this last weekend.
That's the problem. Again, that is confusing.
And I know they were gassed. I get that. I understand it. It goes hand in hand a little bit there in the second half.
A lot of other teams get gassed, and they find ways to not have this continuously happen.
I mean, for crying out loud, they pretty much held Tampa holding on to like a touchdown lead there for the whole game. So, all right, that's going to do it. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m.